All right, we're live. We're back. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Today, I'm joined by David. I want to say, how do I pronounce your middle name? David Wind. But
Yeah,
how do you
David
pronounce your
Wind
middle
is.
name? Yeah,
It doesn't matter to me. Kofoed.
doesn't
It means
matter.
the foot of a cow.
What,
Cow's foot.
Kofoed?
Yeah, it's a cow's
Interesting.
foot.
Interesting. See, I'm already learning something. So, David, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. And you?
I'm doing very well as well. Denmark, you're calling in from, right?
Calling in from Denmark, Copenhagen, Denmark.
So I've got a like I was saying is I like to just kick it off with calling out the pink elephant. Just let's see if you can give people maybe a minute or two on agent work, what you're building today. We'll put that topic on ice and then kind of come back to it at the end of the interview as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So agent work is essentially our perspective on what would an Upwork like freelancing marketplace look like in today's age, right? Because everybody is they have problems they want to solve, but the idea of going, finding a freelancer, asking them to do the job, it's a lot of steps to get anything done. And then today you have AI agents who can solve a lot of your problems. So people think, well, maybe you should just go and get an agent to solve it. But AI agents are still in the space where they can solve many things, but not most things, and they often stumble at the 80% point. So agent work tries to combine the two by basically saying, we want to give you the experience from ChatGPT of writing with an agent, immediately it starts solving your problem. But every time the agent has a problem or can't figure it out or needs validation of its results, humans come in to help. It's basically like the combination of an agent solving your problem with all the efficiencies of AI, but the verification and accuracy of a human in the loop. So that's the very short, maybe semi-poor explanation of agent work. But I can give like a longer, more elaborate story of how we got here later.
That is a super, super fascinating idea. I gotta ask you something right off the bat. Are you aware of agents essentially surfing these markets, these like freelance
Of course.
and essentially doing jobs for people almost like is that happening? I know it's a little bit of a tangent
No,
in
no,
terms of what you're building, but I've been thinking about that. I'm sure a lot of people are for some time.
absolutely right. It's actually quite interesting when you start to dive into it, right? So you have platforms like Fiverr, for example, that realize that all their agents, all their humans are using agents already to do the actual work. So what they're building at Fiverr is like tools to make the freelancers more effective. So like tools for the freelancers to bid on jobs, tools for the freelancers to negotiate, and so on. That's one approach to it. And then what other thing you realize when you dive into this is like, for example, being a freelancer on Upwork costs a lot of money. You can't just go and apply to jobs. You have to pay for every application you make. It's actually quite terrible to be an Upwork freelancer. You have to pay every time you apply, even if you don't get the job. But obviously, one of the first things we did after we built an agent with a human in the loop product is that we took that product to Upwork. We just go apply for a job on Upwork. If we get the problem, then we give it to our agent and try to solve it. And then we help kind of go the last mile. So you could say we're doing that in a way ourselves, but it is a bit hard to automate Upwork job bidding. You have to go through a bunch of like bot protection and other hoops to jump.
Interesting. What a crazy world we live in. Okay, so let's slow it down a little bit. I was going to ask you. So you grew up in Denmark. What I guess first pulled you towards mathematics and computers?
Yeah, good question. What actually got me? I like playing computer games. Like most programmers start that way, right? So I got a computer when I was quite small, and I got permission to do what I wanted with that computer. Just before you could get sucked into YouTube instantly. So I had like a few other more productive habits. And then I remember there's this guy who made a website in Notepad, and I saw it, and I was like, "What are you doing in Notepad? Like, what are you writing this weird stuff in there?" He's like, "It's code to make a website." And I was like, "Crazy! That's so crazy." So I got like a programming book as a kid and started coding when I was very small. Um, and for a long time, computer games was kind of the goal, right? I want to make my own games. But then eventually, when I got to university to study computer science, I realized I already knew most of the computer science stuff, but I was not great at math. And it was almost the same thing, math and computer science. So I switched to math and ended up doing a degree in mathematics.
Very interesting. And so you also, I was reading that you completed the International Olympiad in informatics as a teenager. So what did that experience teach you about problem solving?
It taught me that computer science is really hard. Yeah, so I made the Olympiad team for Denmark. I gotta say, like Denmark's Olympiad team isn't as good as the American or Chinese teams or anything like that, right? So like, I'm still one of the best in Denmark, but that doesn't necessarily put me in the top of the world. But it's actually where one of my co-founder now at Agent Work, he also competed in the IOI for Denmark a different year. But it taught me obviously like a lot of algorithms and computer science terms, and it was fun, right? It was fun problem solving, and I guess if you think problem solving of that kind is fun, you're already kind of weird, and I think that's a good predicate for like now you're gonna be a good engineer or founder one day.
Hey David, I apologize. We're gonna keep this running, but I need like 10 seconds. My wife's stuck outside the house. So
For
maybe you can
sure,
sing a song about CERN.
I'm not gonna sing a song, but I will. I will sit here, and I'll wait for you to come back. Could do some like elevator music. Do, 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 do.
15 years of remote work, still getting used to it. Oh wait, and now you might see something even more interesting, which is I have a 2-year-old walking around here, so he might make a
Yeah,
special appearance. Okay, let's
that's
keep going
that's even
though.
better.
Yeah, hey buddy, you want to learn about something super cool? Get over here. Get over here. Okay, so next question. So you worked at CERN as a summer student. What was
Yes.
that like being, that young and working on particle physics data?
It was a bit of a surprising twist because I wasn't actually like that good at physics, to be honest. So CERN has this like summer student program where people can come for 3 months, live at CERN, and like work on different projects. And I applied, and I wrote in my application that I was a pretty good C++ developer, which might have been a little bit of a stretch, to be honest. But like I was a decent programmer. But they picked me for one of the projects. So I ended up working on this really complicated technical project of like optimizing the compiler for like some program called root down at CERN, and it was like a little bit over my head, to be honest. But I had a ton of fun. You got to work around these particle physicists all summer, and you just spent 3 months at CERN just having fun and meeting other people. I remember working there with Anton, who founded Lovable later, and so on. So there's a lot of cool people in that summer program that year.
And your PhD was in is in machine learning, correct?
Yeah.
So you also taught. I was reading about data science course to 150 students. So how did teaching kind of change your thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I really like teaching. So I think one of my first jobs, my first real jobs, was as a teaching assistant. So after the first semester or two, I got a class in algorithms, I think algorithms one, and then I applied to be the teaching assistant for that course and got accepted. And then I spent my whole degree basically doing TAing like 4 different courses every semester. So I really like teaching. And then as soon as I got a PhD position, the first thing I asked my professor was like, can I teach my own course and can I make it myself and can I like roll my own thing? And he was like, yeah, sure, go for it. So I got permission to build my own kind of data science course, and my perspective was like, I want to build something that people actually can use in the real world. So it's not like all toy problems and theory, but like how do you actually install Postgres? How do you actually run a cluster in the world and so on? So I made that course and it got immensely popular because I used some like SEO strategies on the course titles. I called it something with big data and all these things. So everybody found it and everybody applied for it. And that is what led to my first company because that course got so big that there was basically no way to grade all the papers. I had expected like 30 students, but I got 150. And I'd asked everyone to like every week you want to submit like a 10, 20-page report as your homework. But now I had like 150 like papers to grade every week, which made no sense. It was like a full-time job. So I thought, okay, what if we build a system where the students submit their work and then they grade each other's work, and I'll make a good rubric for them, and then I can use an algorithm to figure out who should get which grade and how, who's fraudulent grading and so on. And that tool got quite popular at the local department. So I ended up pulling it out of the university and incorporating a company around it to say like, let's build what was then called peer grade as a business. And that's where I called up my old high school classmate, Malte, who's also an IOI programmer, and said like, I am in trouble. I've sold this license to this thing, and I actually haven't built it yet, but the course starts in a month. I have one teaching assistant position left. Do you want to be my TA and then just help me build this? And he's
Oh
like,
my.
yeah, it's a perfect fit. So we taught the course together, and then we built Peer Grade together, and then we ran it with our own students to kind of get some feedback, and that's what like took us out on a startup journey.
I was going to ask you what's special about building with someone you've known since you were a kid?
It's a good question. I think one of the biggest advantages is that you have, if it's a good friend, right, which is what you like, you have an incredible amount of trust in each other, and most days that doesn't matter that much. But like when things really get hard, right, when you really have like some complicated dynamic of like, shit, we forgot to make paperwork about this, but like, nobody's going to screw each other. And like, I've spent more time probably with Malte than with my wife. Yeah, because we've been like doing this for I don't know how many years by now, right? We've been working together for 10 years now straight, and like been good friends for 10 years more than that. So when you work together that long and you're so good friends, you can talk about everything, you can trust each other, you can, like, we spend time with each other's families and so on. So it gives a lot of like empathy, and you can relax in the collaboration in a different way.
So Y Combinator accepted you guys in 2017, right? So I guess what was the biggest thing YC changed about how you thought about building?
So before we got to YC, I had consumed all the output of YC. I read all the essays from Paul Graham. I'd watched all the YouTube videos. I was like a big fanboy already. So I think in terms of like core principles and learnings, I already had them. I think what YC gave us in practice during the program was access to the community. It's a very strong community. I still use it on a daily basis. I log into Bookface, which is the internal Y Combinator forum. It gives us access to investors and all sorts of deals and so on. And we just met some really cool people when we were there. I couldn't do it now. I have 3 kids now. It's hard to move the whole family to San Francisco as dad of 3. But back then, 10-ish years ago, it was like the perfect time for us, right? We all went for 3 months to San Francisco and just worked really hard. So I'm really, really happy we got to do YC with Peer Grade.
You said that the next time you'd never take market risk again. So like when you're talking about, is it Peer Grade when you were pivoting from Peer Grade to EduFlow? I was going to ask you, so that's the opposite of what most founders do, right? Going from like a focus tool to a full LMS. So I guess my question is like, what gave you that confidence?
It's a good question, and I'll never know if it was the right decision or not. I can't play back history, right? But Peer Grade was like a peer-to-peer feedback product for schools, universities, and corporates, right? And then after building on that for 4 years, all of our customers kept asking us for like, oh, I love Peer Grade, but what could you also do this? Could you also do that? And like eventually we realized like the market for peer review software is just not that big. There's not that much pull. So like we have to go and create that market university by university. There's a huge market for learning management systems. Like there's 100 already in the market. Every university needs one. We're great at building product. It's actually better for us to be in a place where the market is big and there's a bunch of pull, but where the competition is harder because we can actually out innovate and outbuild the other guys versus being really good product builders in a market that nobody cares about. So I think going from Peer Grade to EduFlow was that learning, and now going to Agent Work, it's the same idea again. Like, because we're fairly good at building product, at least we believe that, we should rather be in a space where the market pool is as big as possible, but the execution risk, the technical risk is really high. Because then at least now the problem is just, can we build it? And maybe we can't, but that's, if it's up to us, right? It's not up to like, oh, you build a great product that nobody cares about. That's the worst feeling as a product person, to have built a beautiful thing that nobody cares about.
How do you figure that out early? Like, how do you determine that? I mean, you could foreseeably figure that out before you even build a line of code, right? But just wondering, like, how do you guys approach that? But by the way, that's a fascinating statement that you just said, though. Like, how you guys think about, just being in a market that is almost inevitable, and that way,
and there's a lot of like. A lot of the
Mm.
big guys have talked about this, right? Like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have different variations of like Jeff Bezos talks about like what problems don't change, right? People want things fast and they want them cheap and so on. Like that will never change. And Elon Musk has some of the same ideas of like, what if we could build rockets 100 times cheaper? Obviously, there's a market for that. Is it possible? Probably not. But let's try. And the same with his new humanoid robots thing. It's like, imagine that there's a robot that can do all chores in your house cheap. Like, would people want that? Of course they would. Can you build it? I don't know. But like, you aim for something where it's like, if this is actually possible, it's a no-brainer to sell it. And I think it brings all sorts of other challenges, but selling the product is not one of them. But competition is one, and technical execution is another big challenge you then run into.
After selling EduFlow to Multiverse, you dove deep into AI at Multiverse, right? So I guess what clicked for you about AI that made you say, this is what I want to spend the next decade or two on?
That's actually one of my. I got AI pilled when I was like in seventh grade, I think. So I was going to this like after school game development thing once a week, every Tuesday from like 4 to 10 p.m. I would go to this secondary school thing, and there'd be this weird physicist called Henrik, and he would like teach us game development. And we were like five kids in that room who were like more interested than the others in like programming and so on. So he taught me to code. He taught me about like physics and hacking, and then he taught me about neural networks because he was like, it was very early to that field. He was a smart physicist. He was working on neural networks, and so he taught me about it. And we trained my first neural net back then in seventh grade to play this little ship game. We built a little game where you sail the ship around some icebergs, and then you had this like mini map basically of the ship and the icebergs, and then you would train a neural net to like look at the map and say what to do with the ship. And after we did that, I got super AI pilled. So I wrote to the university back in seventh grade and said like, this neural net thing is gonna go bananas. This is so good. It's gonna like change the world. I want to work on this. And they're like, yeah, we agree, but like you're 14, like you gotta like go to university, which was true, right? So I had to pause it for many years, but like since I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old, I have stubbornly believed that artificial superintelligence is just a matter of time, and I still can't get out of that, right? So I've been AI pilled from the beginning.
So you guys' tagline is trusted outcomes faster with AI plus human oversight. So why is the human in the loop part so important to you, as the rest of the world seems to be racing towards AGI?
So I think we will get. This is one of the biggest questions I got from investors all the time. It's like, David, you're saying that you believe in AI, but won't the AI just do everything? What do we need the humans for? And I think probably yes. I am AI pilled, as I said, right? So I do fundamentally believe that at some point AIs will do everything better than any human could ever do. When is that? Is it in 1 year, in 10 years, in 50 years? I don't know. But like it will at that point, maybe we all retire and live happily ever after. From now until then, and maybe it never happens, I don't know. But until then, humans are doing something in the world. They have some form of job. The things that humans are doing that is not yet automated by AI, that delta is basically like, what can't AI do, but humans with AI can do that. And that's what agent work is focused on. They're like, if it's an easy problem, give it to ChatGPT. If it's an impossible problem, give it to a human. If it's in between those two, give it to an agent, have the agent try its best, but then have the human finish the swing. Because if a human can solve it and an agent can't solve it, there is some delta in there that we can help. But even if you give a programmer a task today, they're gonna the good thing about doing that is you give them the responsibility and they'll say like, yeah, I got it. I'll figure this out. I'll come back when it works. And then they're gonna go and use an agent to do all the hard work, and then they're gonna manage the agent and so on. And that's
So, so,
basically what we're orchestrating.
so give me an example, yeah, just to make it a bit more concrete, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's still a bit abstract.
Sure. So, like the focus area we have for agent work here in the beginning is different forms of web research. So, scraping, lead generation, different research tasks, right? So, somebody came to us this week and said, like, hey, I need to find all founders who've sold their company around 2 years ago, have probably vested by now, has started something new, but they haven't raised this around for it yet. Those are the people I want to find. And it's like a weird kind of complicated web research problem. And then we have an agent that tries to go and solve it. It has access to LinkedIn and Crunchbase and the web, and it reads podcast transcripts, and it does all sorts of things. And then either it runs to the end and say like, I think I'm done, and then a human is called in on our product to like help verify, does this make sense? Did we actually fulfill the request? Does the links work to LinkedIn and so on? Or maybe the agent breaks in the middle and says like, I can't find any. And I tried everything, and you realize like, no, it didn't try anything. It almost didn't try anything. And then you could tell the agent like, no, try again, try this way. So we basically go from like, in the old days, a freelancer would get a job, and then now they had to do the work. Now we're saying like, no, you as a human, you don't need to do the work. You need to manage an agent that does the work. So your job is now like managing that agent, talking to it, helping like fill the gaps, like reading between the lines. It's like, no, that's not what the customer wanted. They actually wanted this. That's pretty clear as a human, but maybe it's not as clear for the agent.
Just to be a little bit of a devil's advocate. So let's say I
Please.
feed that into deep research or whatever, one of these like crazy things that go off for a couple hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it thinking through all the different permutations and combinations? It is Gemini. It's probably got the YouTube video scraping action. It's probably
sure. So like the agents are
like,
quite good, right? And like the first thing we do is we call those tools. Like, so if you go to agent work with a problem that is kind of deep research, like the first thing that agent work does is call deep research.
Got it.
And say like, let's start with that and let's see how far that gets us. And if that's perfect, all good, then we give you that back. But there's a lot of things where I think another example that's easier to understand is like, I have a Wix page and I want it on Squarespace. Like ChatGPT will tell you how to do it, but it won't actually do it. You can't find an agent today that's easily going to go and set up a Squarespace, sign all the terms and conditions, set up the API keys, move all your content over. There's nothing, and the thing is with these problems is that there's nothing specific that an agent can't do. Like all the steps are in theory automatable. The same with web scraping. In theory, the agents should do all these things. They just don't. But I think the caveat is obviously like, if we said now we are the web scraping company that builds great web scraping because agents can't do it, so we're going to add humans, then it's just a matter of time before agents are good enough, and then we're out of a business, right? So the important insight about agent work is that there has to be like sort of a market mechanic inside agent work, so that as the agents get better, some problems are now irrelevant for agent work. But as agents get better, we start giving agents harder and harder problems. And as you get them harder and harder problems, then you stay in the realm of like, agent work will always be the place you go to with the problems that are too hard for your agent, but is possible for a human with an agent. So we're going to be moving over time to different problem spaces as the agents get better.
I mean, the only way I see that, like for example, like the average human would never be able to even validate whether the output was right or wrong. But you might need specialists. Are we talking about building out like a network of specialists in all these areas, like PhDs?
Yeah, so there's two different types of humans on agent work. One is what we call the human experts, and the human experts are like strong generalists who kind of work with the models and like help the agents. And then the freelancers are like called in on demand, like, okay, now I need to get something very specific done. But I think, and this is a hypothesis of mine that I'm starting to see a lot in the world, is that agents are 80% at almost everything. They're like 80% at like frontier quantum physics, and they're 80% at writing a children's story, but they're almost never 100% at anything. Like coding is one of the only places where we've added so much reinforcement learning so far that agents are quite good at that. But an agent has this like weird combination of PhD level intelligence and like it's complete idiot at the same time. Like I asked it last week, asked the newest models, right? Like, hey, how do I get from one metro stop to another in Copenhagen? It can't figure it out. It's like, what you have to do is this and this. And you're like, that's not right. No, of course you're right. It's not. You have to do this and this. It's like, that doesn't work either. No, of course not. You have to do this. It's like, no, that's also wrong. Like, what the fuck? And it's like, of course it's wrong. It's like, what the hell are you doing? So they could be so smart, and yet they could be complete idiots. And I think it's very hard to see that. But everybody you've talked to will have this experience of working with these models that like they're weird. They're doing some weird shit, and it's hard to exactly pinpoint like how are they dumb. But I was doing this like web scraping with some of the frontier models from the market, and I asked it like, give me this sheet of LinkedIn profiles for these people and so on. And it's like, here's my verified lead list. And I clicked the first link and it didn't work. And I asked it like, well, these links don't work. Nah, I didn't verify them. I just said I did. It's like, what? A human would never do that. A human would either not verify them and tell you like, I didn't have time for that, or they would like say that they tried but it didn't work. But this agent would be like, here's the verified list. And you're like, is it? No. No,
Yeah,
it's not.
yesterday I was trying to get a business plan made and I had tons of context, and then it ended up just generating something about some nonprofit that I've never heard of. And I was
Yeah.
like,
So I think
where did
like,
this come from? But however, those moments are far and few between. I should mention that at least when I'm doing work on Replit, I've got the Claude Chrome extension.
mhm,
I was blown away by how it takes control of my mouse and it understands GoDaddy and
yeah.
and Squarespace, and it can literally click buttons and copy paste things. And so it's
It's getting
progressing
better.
at like
It's getting better all
at
the
an
time.
alarming
And if
rate.
it is so good, right?
But to
If it
your
is so
point though, I
good
mean,
that it, yeah,
yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. But yeah, this is such an interesting conversation. I just I think about this stuff a lot, right? Because I've been geeking out on computers forever as well, and now with the ChatGPT moment, it's
yeah,
like it just feels like anything is possible. Like I honestly feel
I agree.
superhuman every day. I sit in front of my computer and I feel like anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like no limits type of thing. So you said that companies will get smaller and move faster because of AI. Are you building agent work that way?
Yes, for sure. Right. So I think it's pretty clear. We're three technical founders. So we're also like quite able from the beginning to ship a lot of stuff. So we haven't hired anybody yet. And it's not like in the old days we had to have an engineering team of like we had 5 6 engineers in the old company just shipping features all the time. But if I sat down and spec'd out a feature back then, it might take, let's say, 2 months to build for an engineer. And now I can do that in 2 hours. So it's not really constrained anymore by like pure development speed. That's we're actually more constrained about like what good ideas do we really have, and like maybe some of the really complicated stuff we still have to code review it manually. So then that's the new bottleneck. But I could sit down now and whack out 10 features in parallel in Cloud Code, but I don't need to because that's not actually the limiting factor anymore. Features I can ship, and that's interesting because it when features are free, then what becomes important is everything else like distribution and like having good ideas and so on. So we spend a lot more time thinking now than we did before, where we spend a lot of time waiting for things to get shipped so we could see if they work. But now we can like ship it in a day, see if it works, delete it again if it didn't work. So I think generally we're taking that approach with everything, right? Like we'll only really hire when it really hurts. And otherwise we'll just try to use AIs for everything else. Oh, you're muted.
My bad. Yeah. I'm definitely not a professional podcaster. I've done like 300 episodes, but still trying to figure shit out. David, I was gonna say I'm really excited to talk to you actually after we kill the camera here as well, because I just love what you're working on. It's really interesting. But before we do, help me land the plane. Where do you see agent? Actually, no. Before that one, I was gonna ask you. The AI agent space is obviously getting crowded really fast, right? So
Hmm.
what makes agent work different from the hundreds of other agent startups that are getting funded?
Yeah. No. So our specialty is the humans, right? Like we're not here to compete with Claude Cowork directly or any other. Like every single company it seems is building the same product now. They're all building the everything agent for all your work, like Airtable, Lovable, Anthropic, Jet. Like they're all building an agent that does all your work. So like that is the most crowded product space I've ever seen. We're saying like we're going to take the best in class and have that as our foundation, and then we're going to spend all of our time on the gap from that to the best humans, and then we're going to build a product that makes it really effective for humans and agents to collaborate. So it's not like a the agent solves it, and then you read it afterwards and you annotate, kind of like scale on the core. It's like, no, a human expert and the agent are now collaborating in something that looks a bit like intercom. You can imagine like intercom's product, right, with like a bunch of tasks you're on, and you can see what the agent is doing, and you can talk to it, and you can help it, and so on. And that product is what we're building. And like, I guess like one last point about like why would people use agent work? I think part of it is like, well, our agent can solve complicated problems, but also that one of the problems with these like risks of hallucination is that you can't just send it to your customers. You can't just send it to your boss, whatever comes out of this. You got to double check it a bit more. So having a human verification step enforced in the solution is basically a way to guarantee higher quality, but also to get rid of some of these risks that companies are seeing these days, where they suddenly get in some shitstorm because an LLM did some crazy thing and it goes viral because they relied on an LLM to make some decision. Humans can also make mistakes, but people are much more tolerant against human mistakes and not AI mistakes. So basically, if you use agent work for your decision making or for your generating something, you can say like, this is verified by a human. Can it still be wrong? Absolutely. Everything can be wrong. But it's not because of an LLM. We just handed it off to an LLM. It's because of a human error, and that's as best as we could do.
So where do you see agent work in 3 years, and what does the world look like when AI agents actually work the way people hope?
It's really hard to say. I think one of the things I'm trying to wrap my head around is how unevenly distributed this is right now, right? Where I'm sitting in here on X, like getting super hyped every day about how fast the world is moving. And then I go and talk to my wife, all my friends outside of this, and they might not even use ChatGPT. And if they do, that's all they do. They like ask simple questions. They don't know what OpenClaw is. They don't know about Claude. They know none of that, right? They don't care. They just go about their days. And I think as much as I am AI pilled, I also believe that society will be a lot slower to adopt this than we think, and that there's a lot of people out there, including myself, but like especially other people who are like, yeah, I want to be more AI native. I want my people in my company to use AI more, but I don't want to like risk hallucinations. I don't want to have all these troubles. Like I want all the benefits of AI, but I also want like the security and feeling of safety from like having humans involved. And I think that's where we're going towards, right? It's like we'll help you use AI more, but in a responsible way where there's a human fallback. Um, I do fundamentally, like if I have to put my hand on the burner, right? I do believe we're all going to be out of a job in some number of years, and then I'll just play chess and read books and be in my garden, and that'll be lovely. But until then, I'll be vibe coding over here.
Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Was it like
I actually haven't, but I've thought about reading it a few times.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he calls Jobs being just over broke. That's what Job stands for, right? Because you're selling your time for your money, you're getting taxed like crazy, and ultimately you're left with nothing. But he says is that the goal should be to be business owners, right? The goal to be investors, right? Where you're either, he used to say other people's time, but maybe now it's other agents' time, right? That enables, I don't know, I see this trending towards like hyper individual entrepreneurship, like where everybody's going to be forced to, just because nobody will need other people to produce, it'll be almost like a no-brainer that the only thing left to do is for you to create, for you to build, for you to offer the world whatever ideas you have in your mind. Like you got to get it out there type of thing. And there's no excuses because, well, there's this like,
it's a crazy sudden change of the world, right? Like where,
yeah, but like you said, most people are sleeping at the wheel or they're having nightmares about, the situation, right? Like they're just like,
sleeping
oh,
at
it's going
the
to kill all of us, which is also a hard one to like discount, right? To say that, don't worry about it. This stuff's not that dangerous. I mean, it does, like you said, threaten jobs. It does threaten potentially humanity, right? To some extent, even the smartest people are saying that. So I definitely empathize with people that are afraid of it. And I agree. I got into Bitcoin really early, and I would have thought that, you know, by this time the whole world would have like adopted it. But I think if 1% of the world even cares or knows about it, will be I'd be surprised type of thing. And AI is kind of going the same way as most people I talk
Yeah,
to. They're just like, nah, maybe for another time. Like, I don't need it in my life. So, anyways,
it's hard to
David,
say, right? Yeah.
yeah, this has been fun. I'm gonna kill this live stream. Be good to chat with you a little bit afterwards. Thank you. I see we have a bunch of people listening live, and everybody else that checks us out in the future. Until next time, take care. Bye bye. Oh wait, David. Website
Work
agentwork
dot so.
.so, and then if people want to follow your wavelength, do you blog somewhere? Are you on LinkedIn mostly, or?
I think LinkedIn is the best place to find me these days.
Awesome. All right, take care, everybody. Cheers. Until next time.